Good evening and welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Yes, hello, good evening. Here are tonight's main stories.
Tributes to the off-duty police officer killed in a double tragedy alongside a motorist after being hit by a lorry on the A19.
PC Prior's death is a tragic reminder of the dedication and bravery that police officers show every single day to keep us safe, and all our thoughts are with her family, friends and colleagues at this difficult time.
Also tonight, unsafe and unsuitable. An ITV investigation lays bare the struggle for people with disabilities to get an accessible home.
I had to climb up and down the stairs, fell down the stairs a few times. The bath, it had an overhead shower and I kept falling in the bath as well, trying to climb in and out.
The power of mindfulness, why more of us are using the technique to help improve our mental health.
And a portrait of Bradford, the unsung heroes getting their moment in the spotlight.
First, hundreds of police officers and staff across North Yorkshire have held a minute's silence in memory of an officer who was killed alongside a motorist that she'd stopped to help.
PC Rosie Pryor was off duty on Saturday morning but had pulled over to help two drivers who'd been involved in a collision on the A19 between York and Thirsk.
But as they stood on the grass verge beside the road, a lorry crashed into them, killing PC Pryor and one of the motorists, Ryan Welford. The lorry driver has been arrested and locals say there have been numerous near misses on that stretch of one of the county's busiest roads.
Well, John Hill is live in Easingwold for us this evening, a few miles from the crash scene. And John, that's just one of several communities that's grieving tonight, isn't it?
No, you're right, Ian. PC Rosie Pryor was very well known in this local area, not simply because she was a police officer, but because before a change of career, she'd run a well-known mobile coffee drinks business, but she was also heavily involved in the local primary school, in activities there, and she was a ferociously keen amateur athlete, a runner who could be seen pounding the streets of the local neighbourhood, so people knew her here very well. But as you say, not just this community. Down the road at Knaresborough, well, that's another community mourning the loss of one of its own. The family of Ryan Welford say he will be greatly missed. He was a husband, a father, a brother and a son. A flag flies at half-mast at North Yorkshire Police Headquarters. This a force that has lost one of its own. PC Rosie Pryor, described by her family as a loving mum, wife, daughter, sister, auntie. The 45-year-old joined the force in 2022. She'd only completed her training last month. Shortly before 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, she was off duty, returning home from Thirsk when she came across the aftermath of a collision involving two cars. She pulled over to help, and as she stood on the grass verge with the other car's occupants, they were hit by an HGV. PC Pryor was killed alongside one of the drivers. 41-year-old Ryan Welford from Knaresborough died at the scene. A teenage boy who was a passenger in his car is in a serious but stable condition in hospital. The driver of the HGV, a 65-year-old man from Berwick-upon-Tweed, has been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. He's been released under investigation. In Easingwold, close to where PC Pryor lived, there's disbelief.
Well, it's devastating for this sort of thing to come into someone's life so unexpectedly. There's no preparation for people to cope with it, really. And it's tragic a woman like that's lost her life, who obviously wanted to serve the community. And I understood that she was off duty at the time. And I think it's terrific that these people, they respond when they see your trouble and they come straight into action, and it costs her life.
Somewhere in this small town, we've got a husband and two children, I believe, who've lost their wife and mother. So it's absolutely dreadful.
In the Commons today, the Home Secretary paid her own tribute.
I'm sure the whole House will want to remember PC Rosie Pryor, who was tragically killed on Saturday while helping at the scene of an accident, and Ryan Welford, who was also killed.
This morning, police officers and staff from across the county gathered outside police stations as a mark of respect.
It's been incredibly moving
to feel the police family coming together as it does, everyone talking about what a wonderful officer she was, how much she believed in helping others.
Rosie was a really well-loved officer, and as I've said before, a real consummate professional. Professionally and personally, I think she was really well regarded by the officers that she worked with, and really, obviously, loved by her family and friends.
On the A19, those who know the road, like T-Wagon owner Carl, say there have been many narrow escapes before Saturday's tragedy.
You see a lot of near misses. There's a lot of near misses along this stretch of road. There's always the police with a speed camera pointing that way, but all the accidents happen this way.
Well, is there a particular problem in terms of safety on that road? It's lots of speculation now about exactly what happened, and it sounds like it was just a terrible series of circumstances that led to this. But if there are some lessons to be learned, some improvements need to be made to that particular road, then clearly I'll work with the relevant authorities to make sure that happens.
Police are urging witnesses to either of Saturday's two collisions to get in touch. Tonight, though, two families are mourning the loss of their loved ones who never came home. John Hill, ITV News, Easingwold.
And our thoughts are very much with both families who've lost their loved ones. Next this evening, a disabled woman has described how she ended up in hospital with knee problems after being forced to crawl up and down the stairs in her inaccessible home while on the waiting list for a council property suitable for her needs.
An ITV calendar investigation has revealed the scale of the problem across our region, with at least 1,200 wheelchair users currently stuck on waiting lists for accessible homes. But there are simply not enough of these properties to meet their needs.
One housing association is calling on local authorities to step up their building programmes. Hannah Norbury's been speaking to some of those affected.
For Danielle, trying to leave her bedroom is not an easy task. The confined space in this property, though, is, as she says, an improvement on the second floor flat she was living in a few weeks ago. She's been on the council's waiting list for a wheelchair-accessible home for 2 years.
I had to climb up and down the stairs, fell down the stairs a few times. The bath, it had an overhead shower, and I kept falling in the bath as well, trying to climb in and out. Then this flat came, and I can't turn around in that bedroom, so I'm having to come out of backwards. I'm knocking into walls.
Her family says it's a losing battle.
It's an absolute joke. We bid for a bungalow and we were number one, and within a day we were 58. She's went through her whole life in the wheelchair, always asking for help. No problems. Somebody will hold the door, somebody will get something off the top shelf. Ask someone, which is her right, for a place to live, that she can do it comfortably. Nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know.
But Danny and her family aren't alone. We asked all the councils in our region how many people are waiting for a wheelchair-accessible home. Not all the councils responded, but from those that did, we know that at least 1,200 people are currently waiting, and there are now calls for urgent change.
We would ideally like to see is all new homes, particularly all new social housing homes, being built to what's called M42 standard, and that means that they are accessible downstairs. The downstairs rooms are accessible, the toilets are accessible, and a percentage of homes being built to what's called M43 standards, which is wheelchair accessible standards.
One bedroom there, flat, ground floor, is all right. You can see on pictures it's got steps next to the front door, which isn't great either.
Carly, whose leg was amputated in 2020, now knows what it's like to live in an accessible property. But it took 2 years to get a suitable home.
I ended up in hospital because I had developed what they call handmaid's knee, where you get bumps on your knees from kneeling too much. So I developed that from crawling up and downstairs. Really embarrassing. It's, you don't want to admit, oh, how do you get around your house? I crawl. Well, it's reality, I have to crawl. And when they say, well, that's not good for you, that's my life.
Luke was on the council's waiting list in Wakefield, but says he's one of the lucky ones after finding Habinteg, a social housing provider that builds accessible homes.
The housing, there was lots available, but I needed it to be very specific because I was in a wheelchair at the time. So I think in the month, I applied for 3 that are sort of close to here, and I just didn't hear anything back, which is obviously it's fair enough. I wasn't expecting to find anywhere quickly. Miracle, really.
But families like Danielle's feel they'll need more than a miracle.
Well, Hannah's been covering this story and joins us now. This is really a widespread problem, really, isn't it?
Yes, Laura, this issue definitely isn't isolated to the people we heard from in my report there. Just last week alone, I was speaking to 20 families, some with young disabled children who've been waiting years for a wheelchair accessible property through their councils. We asked local authorities in our region how many people are waiting for a suitable home. In Bradford, there are 523 people on the waiting list for a fully adapted property. Now, the council says they only have a small holding stock and that just 2 properties they own are wheelchair accessible. Their main social housing provider in Communities told us they currently have 8 properties available, but none of these are wheelchair accessible. In Sheffield, there are at least 113 people with a mobility need who are waiting for an accessible home, but the council did not confirm how many are currently available to bid on. Similarly, Rotherham Council couldn't provide us with this figure either. And in Leeds, we know that 130 people are currently on the housing register who've been assessed as needing wheelchair access. But right now, there are just 4 properties available. They do say the overall wait time is 118 weeks for these properties. Well, as we heard in my report, some people have been waiting years for a wheelchair accessible property, including Danny. In response to her situation, Leeds City Council said she is placed in the top 10 priority for a flat, but those available so far have not been wheelchair accessible.
So, Hannah, do councils have an obligation to provide wheelchair accessible homes?
Well, it's down to each local authority to assess the needs of people in their area, including those with a disability, and reflect that in their local housing plan. And councils in the region said they do have plans to build more accessible homes. Leeds City Council, for example, hope to deliver 397 new homes within the next 2 years, and 7% of those will be wheelchair accessible. And Sheffield City Council has 3 new housing developments. They'll be completed by 2027. 18 homes there will also be wheelchair accessible.
And what does the government have to say about this issue then, Hannah?
Well, the government says it's down to local authorities to, as I said, look at the needs of people in their areas and reflect that in their housing plans. But they do encourage councils to build accessible homes. But again, that is down to the councils to decide.
OK, Hannah, thank you very much for all that detail.
Well, thank you to everyone who shared their experience for this story. And remember, if there's a story that you think we should be covering, then you can get in touch with us anytime. Just send an email to calendar@itv.com and don't forget to include your contact details. And you can see more about the accessible housing investigation online now. You can find all the detail plus more stories from around the region by going to itv.com/calendar.
Still to come on the programme this evening, celebrating Bradford's unsung heroes, the photography exhibition creating a big impression for City of Culture Year.
And after the big freeze of last week, a very different theme and feel for us in the next few days. I've got the full forecast coming up for you shortly.
Now, after the busy times over Christmas and with many of us looking to make a fresh start this month, there's a rise in people turning to mindfulness.
Yeah, you are, aren't you?
Am I?
No, I don't think so. Clinical psychologists say, though, that just 10 minutes of mindfulness a day can significantly reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety and just make life that little bit better.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound like a bad idea, does it? It's gaining momentum across schools and businesses too. And even some of our MPs are now trained in the practice. Chloe Oliver reports.
And then when you're ready, I invite you now to see if you can notice your breathing.
The art of slowing down is gaining momentum. Classes practising mindfulness like this one have risen in popularity as people look for new ways to manage their health.
It's really effective in helping people to manage mental health, regulate their emotions, manage chronic pain as well. And certainly I see from my own clients that mindfulness can make a really positive impact in their lives. And I'd like you to imagine that you could be holding a ball, perhaps a ball of light or a ball of energy.
Mindfulness isn't just about sitting still, it's also making its way into the workplace. Around 120 MPs have been given mindfulness training in Westminster, and some NHS staff are being offered wellbeing exercises at the end of their shift. But it's something psychologists like Rachel Cotton from Sheffield say isn't just a quick fix and takes practice.
I think modern demands on our lives have become much more focused on what we're doing next and moving from one thing to another, very fast paced. And what mindfulness does is it enables us, by focusing on the here and now, it sort of calms our system down.
Mark Williams is something of a mindfulness expert. Following decades of study into clinical depression, he co-developed a form of mindfulness therapy.
One thing that people can easily do at any time is to pay attention to the contact of their feet on the floor or their body on the chair, and spend a few moments just noticing the variety of sensations coming from the body, and then maybe gathering the attention and bringing it to the breath in the nose, or the breath in the chest, or the breath in the abdomen, and just spend just a few moments. You don't have to control the breath. Just pay attention to the in-breath and the out-breath.
According to the medical journal Revive Prescribed, over 10 million people in the UK have now tried some form of mindfulness or meditation, such as the Headspace app.
Just taking a big deep breath to gently close the eyes.
We've got more people downloading the app month on month, engagement is going up, and we always see a spike around January. You know, the new year, people thinking, what do I want to be doing this year to make myself feel well?
Inhale, could you sweep your arms all the way up?
Whether you're taking part in a class or listening to a meditation app on your lunch break, experts say we can all benefit from taking some deep breaths and embracing the power of being present in today's fast-paced world. Chloe Oliver, ITV News.
Hope you're feeling a bit calmer now. It's time for some sport, and it was a busy weekend of FA Cup action.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
And here he is, a calming influence in our newsroom. Arif is here with the sport. Now, Arif, only 2 teams are left flying the flag for our region, the FA Cup.
Yeah, that's right, Ian. But Mansfield have the chance to join Leeds United and Doncaster Rovers in the 4th round. The Stags play tomorrow after their game was postponed due to the weather on Saturday. But Doncaster's reward for beating Hull on penalties yesterday is a home draw with Premier League side Crystal Palace. Donny were on the verge of being knocked out, but before Mason Burstow sent his spot kick over the bar for Hull, Luke Molyneux kept his nerve to send the game to sudden death. Hull missed their next penalty, so it fell to Harry Clifton to seal Doncaster's place in the next round. And Leeds edged past Harrogate. Largi Ramazani got the only goal of the game. Leeds will welcome either Millwall or Dagenham and Redbridge in the next round. Now, due to the weather, 2 games fell foul to the weather in the Football League. Only Rotherham managed to get their game on against Bolton, and they'll be glad they did as they coasted to a 3-1 win. Goals from Malik Wilkes and Reece James put the Millers in a commanding position before the break. Sam Nombe then added a third in the second half in what was a dominant performance.
Now, finally tonight, thousands of people gathered in Bradford over the weekend for the spectacular launch of UK City of Culture. Among the first of the year-long series of events is an exhibition at Impressions Gallery by award-winning photographer Ida Moulinet.
Yes, part of it features portraits of some unsung heroes in Bradford. Here's Emma Wilkinson.
This gallery presents world-class exhibitions, and featuring as part of this one are these portraits of ordinary people who have often worked for many years to make a difference in their communities. Among them are Stafford and Julie. Stafford is the long-serving deacon of Westgate Baptist Church in Manningham, and Julie is a climate activist who spends much of her time making free recycled bags to reduce our use of plastic. I went to meet them both and speak to the people who nominated them for this project.
Hi, Julie.
Hello, my lovely. Got your latest bags for you.
Thank you.
There we go. I'm Julie. I'm a local resident of Bingley. I've always been a really keen recycler, and a few years ago a group of us like-minded people got together and we started making Moors bags from recycled material and material that would have gone into landfill. It's just a win-win all around, and we've made thousands of them, nearly 10,000 so far. And I love giving them away and seeing the look of surprise at local people when you're giving a bag away rather than they having to buy a plastic carrier bag is great. It's like spreading the love.
They are really loved in our shop, and everybody loves their Moors bags. We tell everybody about them. What you do is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We love you. Thank you. I wanted to nominate Julie for this project because she's a true unsung hero, just like our other Moors bag ladies are. They make these bags, they don't get any pay for that, any money for that, any recognition, and they just deserve to be recognised and to be thanked and to be cherished.
Having my picture in an exhibition is something I never ever thought would happen. And it's been scary at times, surreal at times, but I've loved it and I've really surprised myself.
Julie's picture is great. She's a good looking lady. It's lovely.
It's been a fantastic platform for us to get people thinking about recycling and about changing things and making the planet fit for our grandchildren. It's been absolutely amazing to be part of it.
My name is Stafford Kelly. I became a member of the church in 1983, and I am one of the person who helped to form an organization called WIPA, short for West Indian Parents Association.
What Dad created at WIPA helped with a lot of things. There was a time when black children weren't receiving the education that they should have been receiving due to perceived racism. What WIPA did was increase the grades of the children at school. It gave us confidence.
Many of them today can look back and says, WIPA help us. Make me proud.
I wanted to nominate my dad for this project because he's so selfless. There was always someone in our household that needed help, and Dad would be there. His impact is huge. It goes through generations.
Though I work in the background for so many years, I feel so proud, so happy to know that I got recognition for the work I've done. I'm proud to be in this city.
Well, let's speak now to the photographer behind this project, Ida Malune. Ida, when we spoke to the people who took part in this, they said what an amazing experience it was, but one they never imagined they'd be part of. What was it like for you?
I mean, it was a very interesting experience. I know what they're talking about because often, you know, some of them were telling me they've never had their photos taken, and because we had to do makeup and clothing and all these other things. But if you read my notes, really this full collection is dedicated to them because these are people who are not looking for recognition or to have any prestige associated with what they're doing for their communities. Everybody was very open-minded, very positive, and for a photographer, you know, it's really important that you get that energy feedback because it also motivates you to make the work that you're looking for. So in that sense, it was a very beautiful experience.
And for people who are coming to this exhibition, soaking up the city of culture, what do you hope they take away from it?
I think it's very important for people of UK to take into the diversity of perspectives as it relates to different cultures, different societies, different point of views. I took photos in 4 cities in total, and in each city there were young emerging talents that were basically working along with me, and then eventually they made their own view of these cities. So this being my first time working outside of Africa, this was, you know, a big lesson. So I think this is really an example of an exhibition that brings everybody together into having one conversation, but through different perspectives.
Ida, thank you very much. Well, you can come and see this collection of fascinating photographs here until the 26th of April.
Oh, it does look really good, doesn't it? I
Great
love
photos.
black and white photos.
Yeah,
really
do.
captures
the mood and personality of people, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. OK, well, let's see if Lucy can capture the weather for us.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
A very good evening to you after that bitterly cold Arctic air of last week. A very different theme and feel for us in the next few days. Cloudy skies for the vast majority and a slight patchy frost likely to return in the next few nights. This is the earliest satellite and radar picture. We've seen an awful lot of cloud through our neck of the woods. Very grey, gloomy conditions to start the new week, with some patchy rain and drizzle here and there, not amounting to too much. And with the moisture in the air from this wet weather, prime conditions for misty low cloud and fog patches to develop overnight, mostly hill fog, giving some poor visibility across the Pennines, particularly across the highest routes. Elsewhere, well, we've got a good deal of cloud capping the temperatures, nowhere near as cold as recent nights, generally speaking frost-free, but it will turn just a little chilly in rural spots, around 3 or 4 degrees in the most prone locations, and a slow, steady thaw where we've still got the pre-existing and lying snow. As for tomorrow, we've got an awful lot of misty low cloud again, keeping it quite grey and gloomy. The fog across the highest ground slow to shift, if at all. Any slithers of low weak winter sunshine, few and far between, and barely a breeze. Look at those temperatures, a huge contrast to just a couple of days ago. Double figures return to our maps, highs of 10 or 11 degrees, a much milder feel for all of us after a bit of a chilly start in places. As for the next few days, well, those temperatures drop off a few degrees again towards the end of the week. They'll be near around average for the time of year come the weekend. Mostly fine and dry, and some slithers of weak winter sunshine, but chilly nights with a slight patchy frost.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
And that's it, isn't it? That's all we've time for.
It is. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
A very good night.